We expect our grocery store shelves to be perfectly stocked, our electronics to arrive exactly on time, and our cars to roll off the assembly line without a hitch. But beneath that seamless surface, there is a highly fragile network. Today in this explainer, we're unpacking some fascinating academic research on what actually happens when disaster strikes this unseen machinery of the global economy, and how the world's biggest companies are trying to build digital armor to stay afloat.
To really grasp the stakes here, put yourself in the shoes of a risk manager for a massive German semiconductor firm. We'll call them Company B. It's February 2015. Out of absolutely nowhere, 3 of the 4 production lines at your main supplier's plant in Malaysia catch fire. Boom. Just like that, you're not just looking at a delayed shipment. 30 million euros of your turnover are instantly threatened. 50 products are affected, and 100 crucial customers are suddenly blowing up your phone waiting for answers. That is the terrifying reality of a modern supply chain disruption.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover the fragile network, bullwhips and ripples, the digital rescue kit, the cost of innovation, trust and data security, and finally, the human element.
Part 1. The Fragile Network, Exploring Multi-Industry Vulnerabilities. And this brilliantly illustrates just how broad this problem is. The researchers looked at 9 vastly different companies, ranging from a food retailer in Russia to automotive suppliers in Germany, right through to a semiconductor firm in the Netherlands and a climate systems company. No industry is safe. Natural disasters, sudden bankruptcies, extreme weather, doesn't matter what you're selling, every single one of these supply chain experts reported dealing with severe disruptions that had massive impacts on their overall business.
Let's actually zoom in on one of these chaotic realities. Company A, a huge Russian food retailer. Picture this, it's mid-December. The absolute peak high season. Out of the blue, they get hit with a massive demand disruption. People want way more fresh and frozen goods than planned, and their federal distribution center just completely jams up. We're talking 100% utilized warehouse space. Massive queues of trucks literally just idling outside in the freezing cold. Orders delayed, service levels tanking. It was a complete logistical nightmare that sent their costs through the roof.
Section 2. Bullwhips and Ripples, How Chaos Spreads.
So how does an isolated issue, like a frozen warehouse in Russia, threaten an entire global network? Well, first, you've got the bullwhip effect. You're probably familiar with this one. Small, seemingly insignificant changes in customer demand get magnified as they move upstream, from the retailer to the wholesaler to the manufacturer. It happens all the time, right? But generally speaking, it has a pretty low impact on overall performance. Companies are kind of used to dealing with the crack of the bullwhip. But then, we have the ripple effect, and this is a whole different beast. A ripple effect is a severe disruption that sends massive shockwaves across the entire supply, production, and distribution network. Unlike the bullwhip, these things don't happen often, but when they do, they carry devastating, long-term consequences. We're talking months, sometimes even years, to fully recover.
Putting them side by side really shows you the high stakes. The bullwhip effect, high frequency, low impact. Basically an annoyance. But the ripple effect is low frequency, extremely high impact, a total catastrophe. The ultimate goal for these companies is basically containing those ripples before they turn into literal tsunamis that wipe out their profitability.
Let's move to Section 3, the Digital Rescue Kit, Mitigating and Recovering from Risks.
Now, what's really interesting about the data here is the contrast in how these companies are using tech to fight back. Out of the 9 massive companies studied, traditional ERP systems, enterprise resource planning, and big data analytics were adopted by all of them, 9 out of 9. Track and trace systems are also super common, used by 8. But look at the highly hyped stuff, Industry 4.0 and additive manufacturing, like 3D printing. Only 5 out of the 9 companies are actually using them. So the foundational tech is everywhere, but the cutting-edge innovation, it's actually lagging behind.
But man, when this tech works, it is absolute magic. Think back to that fire at the Malaysian plant from earlier. Well, the risk manager at Company H, a major automotive giant, was using big data analytics to actively monitor their global network. And guess what? Big data pinged that manager about the plant fire a full 24 hours before it even hit the media. That single day gave Company H a massive head start to swoop in and buy up alternative components from distributors before the market totally sold out. They literally stopped the ripple effect dead in its tracks.
Section 4. The Cost of Innovation. Why isn't everyone fully digital?
So, time for a reality check. If these digital tools are so powerful, why on earth isn't every supply chain maxing them out? Well, the answer is the hurdles. Let's look at additive manufacturing, or 3D printing. In theory, it sounds amazing, right? A part breaks, you just print a new one. No shipping required. But the reality on the ground is that the investment costs are astronomically high, and the return on that investment is super murky. Plus, the experts in the study noted that 3D printing just isn't suited for mass production yet. For now, it's basically sidelined as a neat trick for creating rare spare parts or small custom batches, not a reliable, everyday supply chain savior.
Section 5. Trust in data security, the collaboration roadblock.
And it turns out the barriers aren't just financial. It's about trust. Building resilience means cooperating, and cooperating means sharing secrets. So the crucial point here is that we suffer from major data paranoia. One risk manager actually mentioned they wanted to build this amazing digital pre-warning system for natural disasters and bottlenecks. But for it to actually work, their company and their suppliers had to freely exchange live data. The roadblock? Nobody wanted to do it. It was completely political. Without inter-organizational trust and transparent data sharing, your multi-million-dollar predictive analytics are essentially flying blind.
Which brings us to Section 6, the human element, technology meets intuition.
After all this talk about big data, ERP systems, and track and trace tech, we arrive at the final twist of this explainer. The ultimate failsafe? It isn't a machine. I absolutely love this quote from the risk manager at Company H. They said, "You can invest a lot of money in risk management so that nothing happens, but at some point the marginal benefit will be small. Then it is better to have a good crisis management team, because something can always happen. But the right balance is gut feeling." Seriously. All the predictive power of big data cannot replace a human crisis management team standing in a room, weighing the options, and just trusting their gut.
Just think back to Company A, our Russian food retailer dealing with that December warehouse disaster. How did they actually solve it? The computer didn't just autocorrect a massive physical backlog of frozen food trucks. No, the director of the company literally went down to the distribution center and spent the entire month of December physically standing on the floor. That human presence is what allowed for rapid, on-the-fly management decisions to finally stabilize the situation.
So, what does this all mean for businesses today? First off, implement live monitoring to catch disruptions early. But please, prevent information overload. Only track what actually matters. Second, prioritize building trust with your partners, because shared data is the absolute lifeblood of resilience. And finally, never neglect human crisis management. The most stable businesses out there seamlessly balance their massive technological investments with flexible, human-led strategies.
As we hurtle toward an increasingly automated, interconnected, and digitalized global economy, I want to leave you with this to chew on. When the digital armor fails and the algorithms are totally overwhelmed by chaos, in a fully digital future, is human intuition actually your most vital supply chain link? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.